Emotions are an integral part of the human experience. They drive our decisions, color our memories, shape our relationships, and even influence our physiological health. Imagine walking alone at night when you suddenly hear a rustling sound behind you. Your heart races, your muscles tense, and fear courses through your body before you consciously identify the threat. This split-second response illustrates how deeply embedded emotions are in our psychological and biological makeup. In psychology, the concept of emotion has been studied for centuries, yet a universally accepted definition remains elusive.
Etymology and common usage.
The word emotion derives from the Latin term emovere, meaning to move out or to stir up. Historically, emotions were seen as disruptive forces that needed to be controlled by reason. In everyday use, people often conflate emotions with moods or feelings, but in psychology, these terms carry distinct meanings. In general language, saying, "I feel happy," might refer to a fleeting emotion, a mood, or even a general disposition. Psychology, however, demands more precision. Emotions are typically seen as short-term responses to specific stimuli, whereas moods last longer and may not have a clear cause. Feelings refer to the subjective experience of emotions, and affect is a broader umbrella term encompassing emotions and moods.
What is emotion?
A widely accepted definition in psychology states that emotion is a complex psychological state that involves three distinct components: a subjective experience, a physiological response, and a behavioral or expressive response. This tri-component model highlights the multifaceted nature of emotion, encompassing internal processes and external manifestations. Let's consider the emotion of anger. The subjective experience is the internal feeling of rage or frustration. The physiological component includes increased heart rate, clenched fists, and elevated blood pressure. The behavioral response might involve yelling, a scowl, or aggressive actions. All three components interplay dynamically, shaping how emotions are experienced and expressed.
Components of emotion.
Subjective experience. This aspect refers to the internal, conscious experience of emotion, how we label and interpret what we feel. Subjective experiences are deeply personal and can vary greatly among individuals. One person may find public speaking exhilarating, while another experiences intense anxiety. Physiological response. Emotions activate the autonomic nervous system, which governs involuntary bodily functions. For instance, fear often triggers the fight or flight response, leading to a surge in adrenaline, increased heart rate, and rapid breathing. These responses are largely controlled by the brain's limbic system, particularly the amygdala and hypothalamus. Behavioral response. Emotions manifest behaviorally through facial expressions, body language, and vocal tones. These cues can communicate emotional states to others, playing a crucial role in social interaction. Psychologist Paul Ekman identified 6 universal facial expressions: happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust, that are recognized across cultures.
Theoretical perspectives.
Psychologists have proposed several theories to explain the origin and function of emotions. These theories fall into 2 broad categories: biological theories, which emphasize physiological mechanisms, and cognitive theories, which focus on thought processes. James Lange theory. Proposed by William James and Carl Lange in the 1880s, this theory posits that emotions result from physiological reactions to events. For instance, we feel afraid because we tremble. The sequence is stimulus, Physiological response, emotion. Critics argue that different emotions can produce similar physiological responses, making this theory insufficient to explain emotional differentiation. Cannon-Bard theory. Walter Cannon and Philip Bard challenged the James Lange model by suggesting that physiological arousal and emotional experience occur simultaneously, not sequentially. When encountering a stimulus, the thalamus sends signals simultaneously to the cerebral cortex for emotional awareness and the autonomic nervous system for bodily reactions. Schachter-Singer two-factor theory. Also known as the cognitive arousal theory, this model states that emotion arises from a combination of physiological arousal and cognitive labeling. For example, if your heart races and you cognitively label the situation as dangerous, you feel fear. This theory emphasizes the importance of environmental context and individual interpretation. Cognitive appraisal theory, Lazarus. Richard. Lazarus emphasized the role of cognitive appraisal, the personal interpretation of a situation, in the experience of emotion. According to this view, emotions depend not just on physiological arousal, but on how we evaluate the significance of an event. For example, losing a job might lead to anger if seen as unfair, or relief if it was a toxic environment. Basic versus constructivist theories. Paul Ekman's basic emotion theory posits that certain emotions are biologically hardwired and universally experienced. In contrast, Lisa Feldman Barrett's constructivist theory argues that emotions are not innate but socially constructed, shaped by culture, language, and individual experience. According to Barrett, we don't experience emotions directly, but construct them using conceptual knowledge and past experiences.
Emotion in different branches of psychology.
Emotion is studied across various subfields of psychology, each with unique focal points. Developmental psychology. Developmental psychologists explore how emotions emerge and evolve across the lifespan. Infants exhibit basic emotions such as joy and anger, but complex emotions like shame or guilt develop later and are influenced by cognitive and social development. Clinical psychology. Emotions are central to the diagnosis and treatment of mental health conditions. Disorders like depression, anxiety, and borderline personality disorder involve dysfunctional emotional processes. Therapies such as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, aim to help individuals regulate and reframe their emotional responses. Cognitive psychology. Emotions influence cognitive functions such as memory, attention, and decision-making. Emotional events are more likely to be remembered due to amygdala-hippocampus interactions, and emotional states can bias perception and thought patterns. Social psychology. Social psychologists study how emotions function in interpersonal and group dynamics. Emotions like empathy facilitate cooperation, while anger can signal injustice and motivate corrective action. Emotional contagion, the spread of emotion within groups, is a key topic in this field.
Measurement of emotion.
Studying emotion empirically requires robust methods to measure subjective, physiological, and behavioral components. Self-report instruments. Tools like the Positive and Negative Affect Schedule, PANAS, or the Emotion Regulation Questionnaire, ERQ, assess emotional experience through participant self-reports. These are easy to administer but can be biased by self-awareness and social desirability. Physiological tools. Instruments such as heart rate monitors, electrodermal activity sensors, measuring skin conductance, and functional MRI, fMRI, scans provide objective data on physiological arousal and brain activity during emotional experiences. Behavioral observations. Paul Ekman's facial action coding system, FACS, categorizes muscle movements into facial expressions to assess emotions objectively. Video recordings and behavioral coding are also used in developmental and social psychology settings.
Cultural and social influences.
While some aspects of emotion appear universal, others are shaped by cultural norms and social context. Cultural differences. Research shows that while basic emotions may be recognized globally, the expression, intensity, and interpretation of emotions vary across cultures. For example, East Asian cultures often value emotional restraint and harmony, while Western cultures may encourage emotional expression. Display rules. Coined by Ekman. Display rules refer to culturally learned norms about when, where, and how emotions should be expressed. A child might learn not to show anger in front of elders or to smile even when disappointed. Social context. Social roles and group membership can influence emotional expression. For instance, gender norms may dictate that men suppress sadness while women are encouraged to express it. Emotional labor, managing emotions to meet job expectations, is common in professions like customer service and healthcare.
Current debates and evolving definitions.
Psychology continues to evolve in its understanding of emotion. Key debates include nature versus nurture. Are emotions biologically programmed or culturally learned? Universality versus constructivism. Are emotional categories like anger or fear innate or constructed? Emotion in AI. Can machines truly experience emotions or just simulate them? Emotion in animals. Do non-human animals feel emotions, and if so, how do we measure them? Neuroscience and technology are adding new dimensions to these debates. Functional brain imaging, for example, challenges traditional ideas of localized emotion centers, suggesting instead that emotions involve distributed networks across the brain.
Conclusion.
Emotion is a complex, multidimensional phenomenon that encompasses biological, psychological, and social elements. From the flutter of joy to the storm of anger, emotions profoundly influence our lives. Despite over a century of study, no single theory fully encapsulates their nature. Yet, understanding emotions remains crucial, not only for psychologists, but for anyone seeking deeper insight into human behavior. As psychological research continues to integrate neuroscience, cultural studies, and artificial intelligence, our definitions and understanding of emotion will likely become more nuanced. What remains constant is the recognition that emotion is not merely a human experience, it is a human necessity.
References suggested reading.
1. Ekman, P. 1999. Emotions Revealed, Times Books. 2. James, W. 1884. What is an emotion? Mind, 934, 188, 205. 3. Cannon, W. B. 1927. The James Lange Theory of Emotions, A Critical Examination and an Alternative Theory. American Journal of Psychology, 39, 1/4, 106 to 124. 4. Schachter, S. Singer, J. E. 1962. Cognitive, Social, and Physiological Determinants of Emotional State. Psychological Review, 69 to 5, 379 to 399. 5. Lazarus, R. S. 1991. Emotion and Adaptation, Oxford University Press. 6. Barrett, L.F., 2017, How Emotions Are Made, The Secret Life of the Brain, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. 7. Panksepp, J., 1998, Affective Neuroscience, The Foundations of Human and Animal Emotions, Oxford University Press.